Hey, what up, y'all? Wicked Specialist here, aka the author MJ Keskies of Pages of Camelot and Off Key Hearts, and thought I'd do something, again, different. Well, the same thing I did the last video. I'm going to be reading a chapter of my books, and what I did the last time was I read a chapter of the books each that had a strong emotional moment to me, a strong connection, that made me want to write those parts in the first place. But I realize that's without context is nothing. So you don't even know if you want to pick up the book yet because you don't know how it starts. So let me remedy that right now. I'm going to be reading you, there'll be two videos. I'll be reading you the first chapter, maybe two chapters of each book. I'm going to start with Pages of Camelot right now. This is the romantasy adventure that I describe as The Princess Bride meets Ready Player One, in a way. Let's check it out. Chapter 1, Control-Alt-Delete. Ethan Quill's apartment smelled like old ramen, disappointment, and the faint ozone tang of too many overheating laptops. 32 years old, with a computer science degree from Virginia Commonwealth University that had cost him 4 years and most of his early 20s. Ethan worked as a senior systems administrator for a mid-sized insurance firm downtown. Day after day, he sat in a gray cubicle farm, remote accessing servers, writing scripts to automate other people's mistakes, and quietly fixing the Jenkins server that management refused to upgrade. His coworkers called him the wizard behind his back, half compliment, half joke, because he could resurrect crashed databases the way other people made coffee. He had no pets, no hobbies that involved leaving the house, and a family that had quietly given up on him after his father's funeral 6 years ago. Mom had moved to Florida with a new husband. His older sister, a corporate lawyer in D.C., sent birthday texts and the occasional passive-aggressive article about adulting. Ethan sent back memes. It was easier that way. The fluorescent bulb in the kitchen had been flickering for 3 weeks. Every buzz felt like a personal indictment. He stood at the counter in yesterday's hoodie, spooning dry cereal from the box because the milk had expired sometime during his last all-night reread. His phone vibrated. Sarah. We need to talk. I'm outside. Ethan's stomach dropped. He knew that text. Sarah had been his longest relationship, 14 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days. She worked in marketing, liked hiking and Sunday brunch, and had once told him his nerd thing was cute. That was before the cute became annoying, before she realized she was dating a man whose emotional support came in hardcover. He opened the door. She stood on the Welcome to Mordor welcome mat wearing the scarf he'd bought her last Christmas. Her arms were folded tight. Hey, he managed. Ethan, I can't do this anymore. She didn't wait for him to invite her in. She never did lately. I'm not competing with imaginary women, she said, gesturing at the living room behind him. 3 towering IKEA bookshelves, reinforced with extra brackets after the last collapse, sagged under the Heir of Camelot series. First editions, special editions, the UK hardcovers with the metallic embossing. Morgana Vale stared out from multiple covers. Dark curls wild in the wind, eyes sharp enough to cut glass, leather jacket and glowing sword. You quote her in conversations with me. You fell asleep last month muttering about Camelot's bloodline. You spent her anniversary weekend at a fan convention instead of going to the beach like we planned. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. It was a one-time thing. The author was doing a signing. It's never a one-time thing with you. Sarah's voice softened, which hurt worse than anger. You've been checked out for months. I deserve someone who's actually here, Ethan, not living in some fantasy where he gets to be the hero who wins the magic girl. He wanted to tell her that the books had saved him once, how he discovered the first Heir of Camelot novel during a brutal depressive episode right after his dad died, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, 6 weeks from diagnosis to funeral. How Morgana Vale's refusal to let the world break her had pulled him through nights when he considered joining his father sooner than planned. But the words stuck somewhere behind the lump in his throat. Sarah sighed. I left my spare key on the counter. Take care of yourself. The stairwell door clicked shut behind her, like the final line of a chapter he hadn't wanted to end. Ethan stood there for a long minute, cereal box still in hand. Then he did the only thing that ever made sense when the real world glitched. He went to Bell and Page. The narrow bookstore had been his sanctuary since his sophomore year of college. Back then, he'd been a shy, overweight kid hiding from parties and panic attacks. Mrs. Patel, who owned the shop for 40 years, never minded when he camped out for hours. She kept the same battered leather armchair in the back corner and still stocked his favorite mint tea. "Rough night, love?" she asked as the bell jingled. Silver hair in a bun, mechanical pencil stuck through it like always. "Sarah broke up with me," Ethan muttered, heading straight for the new releases table. Mrs. Patel made a sympathetic sound. "That girl never did understand a good story. You want the usual?" "Yeah, and whatever sugar you've got back there." Once she disappeared into the stockroom, Ethan picked up the object of his current obsession. Heir of Camelot, Crown of Fractured Glass, Book 4. Morgana Vale glared up at him from the rain-slick cover, one hand on Excalibur's hilt, defiance burning in her eyes. The tagline read, "The throne calls, the blood answers. But which world will break first?" He'd first found the series 5 years ago on a random recommendation thread. What started as a "this looks fun" had become a lifeline. He knew every plot twist, every piece of hidden lore, every subtle hint about Morgana's destiny. He ran a small Discord server for theories. He sketched her in his notebook during boring meetings. He knew it was pathetic, a grown man in love with a fictional character. But in a life full of crashing servers, family science, and girlfriends who eventually left, Morgana felt like the only thing that had never let him down. He carried the book to his chair and cracked it open and let the rest of the world fade. Mrs. Patel returned with tea and an enormous chocolate croissant. "On the house. You look like you need fortification, dear." "You're a saint," he whispered. Merlin the cat jumped into his lap and began eating with sharp little claws. Outside, Virginia rain began to fall, turning the streets into black mirrors. Ethan turned pages while the radiator clanked and the streetlights flickered on. He read about Morgana in that rain-slick London alley, sword in hand, facing down threats no normal person could imagine. He whispered her lines under his breath. For a little while, the breakup, the job, the empty apartment, all of that receded. Just one more chapter, he told himself. Then he'd go home and face reality. He turned the page, completely unaware that reality was about to rewrite itself. Chapter 2. Rain and Runes. Ethan sank deeper into the worn leather armchair, the world of Bell and Page shrinking around him until only the pages remained. The rain outside tapped a steady rhythm against the windows, but in his mind it became the slick streets of a London that existed somewhere between myth and metropolis. He turned the page and the bookstore's mint tea went cold in his mug. Chapter 7. Rain hammered the alleys of Shoreditch like the gods themselves were angry. Morgana Vale pressed her back against the wet brick, Excalibur humming faintly in its concealed sheath beneath her long leather coat. The sword didn't like being hidden. It never had. But walking around modern London with a glowing medieval blade, it tended to attract the wrong sort of attention. Corporate mages in tailored suits, tabloid paparazzi with enchanted camera lenses, and things that were human skin like ill-fitting coats. "Come on, then," she muttered under her breath, her London accent sharp as the blade at her side. "I haven't got all night." A shadow detached itself from the mouth of the alley, tall, hooded, and reeking of ozone and old blood. A lesser demon, probably summoned by some hedge witch trying to climb up the ranks. Not the biggest threat she'd faced this week, but annoying enough. "You carry the blood of kings," the thing hissed, voice like gravel in a blender. "The throne remembers. The throne hungers." Morgana rolled her eyes. Yeah, prophecy, destiny, yada yada. I've heard it all before. You lot really need new material." She drew Excalibur in one fluid motion. The blade sang as it left the sheath, flooding the alley with silver-white light that burned away the raindrops mid-fall. The demon shrieked and lunged. Morgana moved like someone who had spent years turning fear into fury. She sidestepped, brought the flat of the blade down across its shoulder, and spoke a single word of binding she'd pried from an ancient grimoire 2 books ago. The demon convulsed, smoke pouring from its eyes before dissolving into harmless ash as the rain washed into the gutter. She sheathed the sword again, breathing hard. Her left eyebrow, bisected by the thin scar from that duel with the Black Knight, twitched with irritation. "Another night, another would-be assassin," she said to no one. "Brilliant." But as she stepped out of the alley onto the glittering street, something felt off. The London Eye in the distance pulsed with faint violet light, a sign only those with the old blood could see. The prophecies were accelerating. Her father's ghost, or whatever fragment of Arthur still lingered in the ley lines, had warned her. Claim the throne, or the worlds will tear themselves apart trying to decide which one you belong to. Morgana pulled her hood up and started walking toward the safe house in Whitechapel. She didn't know it yet, but the stranger who would complicate everything was already on his way, dropped between realities like an unread bookmark. Ethan's heart raced in perfect sync with the scene. He could practically hear the rain, feel the hum of the magic in the air. He shifted in the armchair, Merlin the cat grumbling at the movement, and kept reading. The chapter shifted back to Morgana in her tiny flat, nursing a cup of terrible instant coffee while scrolling through encrypted forums on her laptop. She argued with an anonymous user who called themselves Pendragon Scholar 92, a detail that made Ethan smile because he'd once used a similar handle on the official fan site. She was brilliant, sarcastic, lonely in a way that resonated bone deep. A woman trying to balance two worlds, one that wanted her to be a queen, and the one that just wanted her to pay council tax and keep her head down. She deserves better than this, Ethan thought, fingers tightening on the paperback. Someone who actually understands what she's carrying. Mrs. Patel had dimmed the main lights an hour ago. Only the small lamp beside his chair and the neon sign in the window remained on. The rain outside had grown heavier, drumming against the glass like impatient fingers. Ethan glanced at his phone, now turned back on out of guilt. 3 missed calls from his boss, a single text from his sister. "You okay?" Sarah messaged me. He ignored them both and returned to the book. Morgana stood on the rooftop of the safe house, wind whipping her dark curls. Below, the city sparkled with both electric lights and the threads of ancient magic only she could see. Somewhere out there, the enemy was moving pieces into place. The court of broken glass, the hollow nights, and something worse stirring beneath the Thames. She gripped the balcony railing. "If I'm supposed to be the rightful heir," she whispered to the night, "then why does it feel like I'm the mistake?" A distant siren wailed. For a second, the sound almost seemed to echo from another world entirely. Ethan closed the book for a moment, pressing it to his chest like a shield. His pulse thrummed. This is why he loved it. The way Morgana felt so real. Flawed and fierce and funny. The kind of woman who would never settle for someone like him in real life. But in these pages, maybe. He stood up, stretching stiff limbs. Mrs. Patel had left a note on the counter. "Lock up when you leave, dear. Tea in the usual spot." Ethan tucked the book under his arm, pulled up his hood, and then stepped out into the pouring Virginia rain. The streets of Carytown gleamed wet and empty. He didn't look up from the open pages as he walked towards the crosswalk, eyes devouring the final lines of the chapter. Morgana was about to meet the stranger, the one who knew her story better than she did. Ethan stepped off the curb. Headlights flared. The screech of tires cut through the rain, and the world went white. All right, I think that's a good place to stop right there. Story's just about to start picking up, and if you want to read more, you can go pick that up. It's Pages of Camelot. It is available in paperback and ebook at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and a handful of other sites around the world. Link in my bio for all those other sites if you're international. Go pick it up. Please read the book, and I think you guys are really going to love this one. All right, peace.